All right. And after that comes all of whom makes the Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation possible. To all of our donors and our members, our individual members, corporate members, special partner institutions, and senior special partner institutions, all of whom without we would not be able to do what we do for the country. Business and Countryside Development Foundation is in partnership with the Management Association of the Philippines, and we are a nonprofit member-supported organization. It is only through your generosity and support that we are able to bring you our knowledge sessions every 2 weeks, as well as work in the service of small agribusiness for poverty reduction through job creation and rural development. So good morning to everyone. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope everyone has had a very restful holiday. As always here in the Philippines, January is always a bit of a slow start. It's a surprisingly cool January. I think we're looking at um, below 30 degrees in temperature. I don't know how much colder it is right now for our speaker this morning, who might be calling in from far north in the mountains of the Cordilleras, but or if she's not there, then the farm itself. But yeah, I hope everyone's had a good and restful holiday, and glad to see everybody. So I'll be introducing our speaker for this morning. I'm quite excited. I actually have had the pleasure of really getting a chance to savor their heritage coffee. I got to meet our speaker this morning through the Coffee Expo, the Philippines Coffee Expo, last year, and had a very, very fantastic conversation during that time. And very thankfully, she agreed to be our first speaker for the year. Our format this morning is going to be a little bit different. Instead of a presentation, I'd like to have more of an interview style conversation with her. We'll just be having a very nice discussion with her on her thoughts about artisan coffee production here in the Philippines as a small agribusiness and its potential for rural development. This format has been fairly well received. We've had some sessions in the past where either the host and the speaker would have a conversation, or we would invite multiple guests to have a conversation with each other on certain topics. For example, the conversation between Shell Habito and Raul Montemayor regarding the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Program was a very well received session. Or the conversation that we had on small agribusiness development, I think with the Mindanao Development Authority, that those were very well received. So hopefully we'll have a few more sessions with this format this year, where instead of simply having someone give us a presentation, we can have more of a conversation with them, leading into our informal discussion. So please allow me to introduce our speaker for this morning. Our speaker this morning is Ms. Noemi Lardizabal-Dado from Balili, Mankayan, Benguet in the Philippines. She is the farm manager and coffee producer, uh, producing shade-grown Arabica in the highlands of Benguet at around 1,620 meters above sea level, so fairly high above sea level. Um, so their farm is Agnep Heritage Farms. She took over the operations in 2018, and has been working on developing small batch, high quality specialty coffee since then. So she not only manages the farm operations, but she also has her hand in the post harvest. Trying to make sure that the quality of their coffee remains consistent throughout the years. And she works very closely with the local community, training local farmers and trying to develop cooperative initiatives so that the community can be developed further, especially in their capability of producing coffee. She is also a columnist for Sunday Business and IT in the Manila Times. And she's been, I think, blogging her career since 2006. Um, so I decided to ask her to come here. I decided to ask Noemi to come here this morning. Because I asked her about the topic of artisan coffee production, which is small batch, very, very specialty production, usually centered around one person or a family who's made this part of their livelihood or forms a large part of their livelihood. So please join me in welcoming Miss Noemi Dado from Agnep Heritage Coffee. Noemi, good morning and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Julius and everybody here.
Okay. Well,
I'm really
maybe just
glad to be here. Yeah.
yeah, really, thank you. January usually is a bit slow for everyone, so I'm really glad that you can take the time to join us this morning.
Okay.
Yeah, if I could maybe start kick things off, maybe if you could tell us your story first. Where have you always been in coffee production and coffee farming, or what was your life before you got here? Tell us your story of the evolution of your career, and how you ended up in Agnep Heritage Farms. Yeah.
Yeah, I graduated BS Food Technology in UP, and I practiced food technology for quite a while when I was still single and even did solar dehydration in dried mangoes. Now, when I got married, so I stopped work altogether and became a homemaker and helping my husband with property management. Now, many years later, my daughter is already abroad, and she we went to Balili, and she really wanted to buy coffee. She was really very persistent. Please buy coffee. Please, you know what? You should plant coffee. And then I don't know what triggered my mind why we should plant coffee, but I know because I was in blogging already. I was in social media that Arabica grows in highlands. So I said, why don't you plant coffee? I had no idea that there, because the side of my family owns the properties in Mankayan, that their great grandparents was this backyard coffee growers since 1906. Had no idea. So I said, okay, let's plant. And then, thankfully, because I knew people in the coffee industry like Chitwan, she introduced me to Professor Macanes of Benguet State University. And then through Macanes, I met Michael Harris Conlin. That's how it worked. Through network. And then I got the was this inspiration to start the farm without zero knowledge about coffee. I had no idea how a coffee plant looked like, except my husband. I mean, he knows what coffee looks like because he grew up in the mountains. And then he showed me a coffee, and I was so fascinated by looking at the cherry. So I said, okay, let's do it. And then we went to Benguet State University, and Macanis introduced me to the shade-grown coffee. He said, it's possible. And that led me to Benguet State. What's this? We were introduced to the Bureau of Plant Industry, and they had a nursery. And so that's how we got our 1,200 initial seedlings. Unfortunately, they were not able to classify what kind of Benguet Arabica it was, because there's a study that there are 11 cultivars in Benguet, and in my research at that time, because I wanted to concentrate on specialty coffee, you segregate by cultivars. So I didn't know what's Typica, what is Red Bourbon, until they started growing, and when the cherries came out. So we really had a problem with labeling. But later on, I made sure that when I get seedlings, I actually know what is the cultivar. Unfortunately, the Bureau of Plant Industry still does not know how to classify. We got a red bourbon. It was placed there with a QR code. And then when it grew 3 years later, it orange. So, I really have problems with that. So it's better if I get it from actual farmers. So I got some Katimor from Sagada. So that's how we started. It was really difficult to classify the cultivars. And everything was funded by my husband's and savings, and the property is the great grandparents of my husband, Agnep. Actually great, yes. And we found out only later when we planted that she was a backyard coffee grower. And the tree behind me in the background is one of the old trees that was left behind. It's very prolific. We get our seedlings there because it's better to get seedlings from the mother tree, and it has lived through many years. So basically, that's how it started. We have planted 11,000 trees in 7 years, and half of it are growing and bearing cherries.
See, I
Yeah.
see. Maybe for the benefit of people who perhaps don't are starting from the same point that you did all the way back then when you decided to do this. For the benefit of those people, maybe you can talk a little bit about what you mean by cultivars and which one you eventually settled on and your difficulty with why it was so important to you that you identify which one you're planting.
Okay, so there are 11 cultivars identified by the Benguet State University. I got a booklet actually. It was done in 2015. So we have Granica broadleaf, Granica fine leaf, Kenya 38, improved San Ramon, Mocha, Mondonovo, MSAC selection number 1, Red Bourbon, San Ramon, Typica, and Yellow Catura. Based on my research, it's each cultivar is a variety of Arabica. The the main cultivar or the original one is Typica.
Mhm.
So that one is very that is the most tasty among all the coffees in the
Okay.
varietal. I wanted Typica, but Typica is not very productive compared to Red Bourbon. So I wanted it classified that way because I wanted it by taste, and it's easier to sell. Oh, this is Typica. So what happened was I did Typica plus Red Bourbon because I wasn't sure, and the taste was really good as washed. So anyway, Granica is orange. The cherry is orange. So that one, not many like the orange Bourbon, but we found a process through the help of Michael Harris Conlin. We did the anaerobic, and it had a very fruity flavor, and it really improved the lot. So that one also, some like Typica plus Red Rover, and some like Granica. And then we have this Mondo Novo. Mondo Novo was classified by the World Coffee Research as Catimor. So I call it now Catimor because they already inspected the plants in Sagada as Catimor. So Catimor has a different taste profile too. So I sell that separately also as Catimor, and it's best as anaerobic. We did wash, but through experimentation, anaerobic was better. The flavor profile was as much higher. And then we have the Balili red because we could not identify all the other
Mhm.
varietals. So we just call it Balili red because it's all mixed. So that's how it is. So we have Balili red. So we can really classify Typica. Typica, we can, if we have a plantation that's Typica,
Mhm.
that's from Balili, and we have Typica plus Red Bourbon, and we have Fatimore, and we have Granica. So at least four, and then the fifth is Balili Red.
I can imagine it was difficult because you won't be able
Mm.
to tell the differences between the different varietals until they've actually grown out a little bit, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I was so happy when the Bureau of Plant Industry gave me Red Bourbon and a QR code and everything. And when it
Mhm.
grew, it's orange. So the farmers were disappointed because they wanted the reds because the reds taste really, really good. And
Okay.
so for the Kabatangan, our association, when they went to the Bureau of Plant Industry, they preferred the yellow Katura. So yellow Katura is the first time you will be planting.
I
So that's
see.
in the backyard of the farmers now.
Okay. I
Mm.
find it also very interesting that Arabica typica, the name itself says typica, so you'd assume it's a very common varietal. But you yourself are saying it's not very common, it's not very productive, but apparently it's the tastiest.
It's a tastiest and it's hard to grow. It's hard to nurture. It's a very tall tree, like the one behind my back. It's a very tall tree if you don't prune it. But when you found, I was told to prune coffee plants, but typica they die when you prune it. So we decided to
Ah.
let it just grow.
Mhm,
And then typica also has another varietal. They call it the sweet typica.
mhm,
There's
mhm.
also there's in Mindanao right now. I got I got some seeds and I planted a few. Let's see how
Mhm.
it tastes. It tastes much better than the typica we know
I
that's
see.
behind me.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So basically you have all of these different varietals of coffee. So I'm guessing based on what you've explained so far and for the benefit of our audience and whoever might be watching this video, each varietal has its own unique characteristics of like flavor and
Mhm.
drink quality and things like that. You had mentioned you already mentioned that Typica has the best flavor. But it is very hard to grow. So I'm guessing, people in the audience who might want to try doing this maybe should not start with Typica. Maybe they should start with something a much easier varietal to grow. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the Bureau of Plant Industry, hopefully they have red bourbon. And
Okay.
yeah, so I'm because I was asking the former Philippine representative of the World Coffee Research where I can get good things,
Mhm.
and he said that the Bureau of Plant Industry has good seedlings. It's just that they don't classify it. I mean, they don't
Mhm.
know how to classify it because I think they are getting their seedlings from different producers. I wish
I
they
see.
would. It's very expensive to have a DNA of each
Yeah.
plant. So
Mhm.
maybe that's why also I really don't know.
I
But
see. I see.
it
Okay.
would be better if they classified it. Typica
I
is
see.
easy to classify because it's a tall tree and but
Mhm,
at
mhm.
least that one they should at least classify it as typical seedlings.
Especially considering and since we are in the topic of artisan production, it's going to be very difficult for you if you have so many different varieties of coffee, and you don't know which one it is that you're really after, you know?
Yeah,
Oh.
so that's why when we have the typica plus red bourbon, we just say wash red. So, but the typica plus red bourbon was included in a brewing contest in South Korea and it won bronze. So it
Mhm.
really has a distinct taste.
Oh,
It's really good.
okay. Yeah, because basically varietal selection seems to be a very important part of what you do. You also
Mm.
mentioned earlier the words anaerobic and wash. Again, for people in the audience who
Oh
are not very
yes.
familiar, maybe you can give us a bit more. What do you
Okay.
mean when you say those? Yeah.
Okay. So the best process actually is natural, where you put the reds and dry it under the sun. But unfortunately, in our mountains, in the afternoon it starts to rain. And in the first year when we had our harvest, we did sun drying because I'm familiar with solar dehydration. So I even did what's it, a plastic cover over it and all that. And the problem was it had molds when it rains. It
Mm.
got white molds actually. So I wasn't sure how these molds are. I mean, how they work. So I'm scared to use it. So it was, 20 kilos of fresh cherries were discarded. And so on the second year, I decided I wanted a consultant to help me, and that was I'm really grateful to Michael Harris Condon because it reduced our work by 100%. So we did so many experiments and we found out that washed was great for the Typica plus red bourbon. Washed is when you um, remove the peels and the what is the parchment and no, not the parchment, the mucilage, and you put it in a tank filled with water up to a certain level and a pH. And then after it reaches a certain pH, that's when we dry. So that's washed because in wash process the the enzymes will create some flavor profiles in the coffee, so that's washed. So that was great for the reds. Now we did a lot of experiments we did even fermented for the wash, but it came out the washed, I mean, for the reds, but it came out that the washed was the had the highest score according to our consultant. Now for the Granica, we did wash natural. So we did all of those experiments, and we found out anaerobic works well with the Granica. So anaerobic is when you put the cherries in a closed container without oxygen. That's why it's called anaerobic. And then we let it reach for a number of days until it reaches a certain pH. Now, um, in that process, so inside the cherry, there is also another enzymatic reaction, so fermented, so it develops also flavors. So that's why the anaerobic was suitable for the Granica. Now, after a certain number of days, we depulp it, depulp like what we did with the washed and then dry. So those are the two processes we do. We do other experiments, but for now we are doing wash and anaerobic.
Okay. So what I'm understanding from what you said is that you're taking the coffee, the coffee cherry, so the red, the red fruit that we see in your background. So if you're doing it natural, you just take
Yes.
the entire coffee cherry and then you just dry that under the sun.
And yes, we dry it. We
Okay.
do flotation first to remove we want the dense cherries to be the ones that we will dry. We remove the top, the one that floats, and we just put it in
I see,
our
I see.
fertilizing. We have a
Okay.
compost, so we put it
Okay.
there.
So
Mhm.
so
So
so so
that's the natural
okay. If it's washed, then you put it in I guess based on what you're saying, a
depulper.
solution, the pulp. Oh, so you remove the pulp.
Yes, we remove the covering, and then it's depulped. So we the cover of the cherry, we set it aside and we make it into cascara. It's a tea. So that
Okay.
one is not wasted. Mm. And then the
Okay.
rest will be dried. Will be processed first until it reaches a certain pH. Then after that
Mm,
pH is reached, then dry it again in the
I see.
greenhouse.
I
Mm.
see. So the difference between that and the anaerobic is that so for anaerobic, correct me if I'm wrong, you do the same thing, you depulp it, but then you put it in a closed container and then
No, no,
that
no. It's
that's
not the pulp.
oh,
It's not the pulp.
oh, okay.
It's whole.
Okay.
It's whole
Okay, okay.
cherries in a closed container without oxygen.
I
Yeah.
see, I see. So,
Mhm.
but then you also let it reach like a certain pH or
Yes. We
okay,
will let
okay.
it reach a certain pH and then we depulp it.
I
Yeah.
see, I see.
Mhm.
Are there you mentioned that, natural wash and anaerobic are three different things. You mentioned that the washed works best for the indica and the
Typica.
anaerobic works the typica, yeah, and then the anaerobic works well for the
Granica.
granica.
Granica
Yeah,
and Catimor actually. We're using
granica and
anaerobic
cat.
for Catimor because it develops a fruity flavor, which is ideal for specialty. Now, actually, some of my customers don't like fruity. They prefer the bitter and I don't know, tea-like maybe. So it's really a preference.
Okay,
But
okay.
for specialty definition, I think they prefer the fruity tea-like and some florals, balanced sweetness. Some don't like it acid at all. Some are really used to burnt coffee. So that's actually a preference. So I always tell them it's fruity. So they have
I
an idea.
I see. So it's really not that one process is better than the other. It's really dependent on the taste preference of your customers and, which works best for which varietal.
Actually, this was decided by us because based on cupping score. So
Mm-hmm.
in that cupping score of all the experiments, it was found out that washed was better for the reds,
Mm-hmm.
anaerobic was better for the granica and catimor. So it is you do a lot of experiments and find
Mm-hmm.
out which has the higher cupping score, which has a better flavor profile. So that's how we determined which process we stick to, and it has been really consistent. It's our fourth year, 22, 23, 24, 25. So fourth year of using the same process.
I
And I
see.
have to take note that when you do a cupping of coffees. I can identify our coffee because each um, terroir or each location has their own flavor profile. So I'm
Mhm.
able to identify my own coffee. Even the farmers can identify their own coffee.
Mhm,
Mm.
mhm. Well, if that's the case, the you're talking about farmers identifying their own coffee. Sorry, is Noemi still with us? Uh, Seems to have frozen.
Yeah, it kind of glitched, right?
Yeah, okay, you're back, you're back. Don't worry. Um, okay. So you mentioned cupping score.
Cupping
Again, for the
score.
benefit of people who might not be familiar with coffee or are interested in coffee as a potential business, could you maybe explain that a little further?
The Specialty Coffee Association has a grading system for uh, determining distinctive attributes. So the higher the score, it should at least be 80 points or above on a 100-point scale, evaluated
Mm,
by a trained certified graders. Now,
mm,
at the time when we did the experiments, the wash reds had a cupping score of 86, and then so we just got the higher score, and then I think for the anaerobic we got 80. So it was within the SCA standard, the Specialty Coffee Association standard. So there's a cupping score around the world to determine what is the level of or the grade of your coffee.
I
I
see.
haven't
So,
had it graded recently. So I don't say it's good that you say artisan because I cannot say it's specialty if it's not graded. Yeah, every
Mm,
batch I have to grade it because I
I
cannot
see.
afford I cannot afford to have it graded all the time. So I just say premium coffee.
Oh,
And then
okay.
and if the coffee shops want to buy it, they'll just base it on the taste because I give them a sample.
I see.
Mm.
I see. So essentially, when you say cupping score, it's a standard that it's
Yes.
a standard by which coffees are judged. Okay, so that's for both the benefit of the farmer and of the consumer who would want to buy the coffee. Yeah?
Actually benefit for the roaster because the higher the cupping score,
Ah,
the more specialty it is, and then it
okay.
becomes rare, I think. And that's how contests are done with among coffee producers. So,
Mm-hmm.
if they have, or I don't know if they do cupping scores, but definitely there is a standard to follow.
I
Mhm.
see. I see. So if that's the case, then because you mentioned that, there's you can brand your coffee specialty based on, let's say, the cupping score that you're getting, but since it is a fairly expensive process, you can
Yes.
you can also talk about kind of what you call this, the what you call this, you have other ways of labeling it, or for example, you can call it premium, or some people, based on what you said, the roaster, it benefits the roaster to know that the coffee of this is of this standard or of this quality. Is that very important, especially for you, for example, that people can identify that the coffee came from you? There is a movement in the world about, for example, traceability, or
Yes.
like you already mentioned, the differences between calling it specialty or calling it, we already brought up the term artisan or calling it premium. So that branding as well. How important is that to a farmer such as yourself, growing this kind of coffee for a small batch of coffee?
Actually, when you mentioned artisan coffee, I never even knew there was artisan coffee. So when I did a bit of research, I think it really fits our profile because it's like a producer making something in limited quantities. And we really have limited quantities for now. Like we only had 300 kilograms of green coffee last year. And then we use traditional or hands-on methods. So it's very hands-on. We really pick ripe. We just don't, uh, because our farmers are very new in the coffee industry. They really follow instructions. They really follow the pick right. And
Mhm.
then because uh the the way we sell it is because we're really small batch, and some really like the story behind it. Like we feature the forest-like environment of the coffee, how there are birds. The birds are natural pesticides of our coffee, and then how the farmers have a living even if cash crops get affected by the typhoons. They still have a living when they are doing coffee because basically our coffee is protected by the tall pine trees. Although some cherries fall, but at least they still have income. And then, so the story is really that we are we're not just they're not just farming in our farm. They have also their own backyard coffee, but you want them to grow. So we are transferring knowledge also to our farmers so that they can have their own. We have around 13 farmers in the association, so we can pool resources and they can use our facilities to process coffee. Although it's still starting, they have planted 3,000 trees, and we are looking for more seedlings so that they can uh, improve their backyard actually.
Mhm.
And maybe if we can find empty lots, so they can also plant there and have a sharing system with the owner of the property and the farmer, because instead
Mhm.
of just tearing down trees, because unfortunately some of the farmers I know that I wanted to talk to, they cut down their coffee tree in
Mhm.
place of sayote, and then sayote is known to be it erodes the soil. So
Mhm.
we want them to continue planting the trees, and
Okay.
so that's a story we tell our customers, and they like it. They like that they're helping a community, they're supporting Philippine coffee.
Mhm.
It's that the cost of production is high. That's why our coffee is expensive.
Mhm.
And they understand.
Nice.
Mm.
Okay. I mean, well, the Philippines is actually one of the largest coffee consumers in the entire world. We really
Yeah.
love our coffee. And so because of that, we actually do consume a lot of coffee. So you're talking about a very different style of coffee, right? You're talking about small batches. There's 13 of you in your association. You only have around 3,000 trees compared to, hundreds, if not thousands of hectares of commodity coffee that's being grown. You
No,
already
this is
touched on.
3,000 new trees in addition to their existing trees. This is just planted
Oh,
this
okay.
year. So I
Okay.
don't know the exact population, but our trees in the farm is 11,000.
Okay, okay. So, but
Mm.
still, 11,000 trees covering maybe a few hectares of land, I suppose,
Yeah.
compared to commodity coffee that's, really, really
Yes, I know.
yeah, thousands of hectares, I think, spread throughout the country. So, if that's the case, do you really feel that because, obviously different tastes, different kinds of markets and things like that, but the fact that you are able to, start from your own farm, the land of the people who came before you, that's been in your family for a while. You mentioned that you didn't know that they were, backyard coffee growers for so many years. And yet you're able to, get the community engaged and grow it out. You're looking at 11,000 trees now. You've added 3,000 trees to your existing inventory of trees. So that means despite the fact that this is a more expensive coffee, it's a smaller batch and all of these things, do you have that room to grow? So does that mean that what are the things that we want to talk about, like that difference between like your commodity coffee versus what you have, which is a very small batch. So do you feel that this really is a way for you to develop these kinds of rural communities, even if the product itself is much more expensive, different? Is this really something that you feel can be done as a way to
Yeah.
develop rural communities?
Yeah, the storytelling is really important. It is earned through quality and consistency. So, small farmers can easily do that, especially if they follow the guidelines that we imparted to them. So small farmers will rarely win on volume, but they
Mm.
can win on clarity, clear origin, clear process, and a cup profile they can repeat. So with small batches, they're able to probably they can pull resources to make that small batch and sell it to and that's where I come in. So that's where I link with the coffee roasters. And I'm very happy I have three roasters that bought our coffee. They bought at least 60 to 70% of our green coffee. And what I like about selling green coffee is I don't get taxed by VAT, because if you sell it roasted, I get taxed. So and there is less production inputs, like no more advertising, no more packaging, like that's not that expensive. And it's uh it's easier to sell. And then we can concentrate on the farming. So instead of how do I sell this roasted coffee? In the end, I
Mm.
still sell a few. Just
Mm.
a small, just so that the brand is out there, and because I had it patented, and when you have something patented, you need to have it out there in the market. So I have a few batches on online. Oh yeah, I'm proud to say that we have certificate of was this? We have an FDA license to operate. I think not many farms have that. So I'm very happy about that, because we have a roaster also there, which is used by the farmers to, where we sell their coffee, roasted coffee, their
It's okay.
backyard coffee.
I've benefited from that. I've bought coffee from you before, so
You did? I didn't
yeah.
even know you bought coffee.
I bought maybe like 600 grams of coffee from you before. It's very nice. And
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
unfortunately, you didn't get to taste all of the varietals because they were all bought by coffee
Mhm.
shops.
It's okay.
So
It's a good problem to have.
I know I don't have coffee anymore, actually, even for our own use.
I
So it's so
see. I see.
sad. Every year, I always wonder, will I sell my coffee? I mean, what will I do with this coffee? But the nice thing about coffee is it can be frozen. So if
Mm,
you have a freezer, if you don't sell, and then I can roast it again or convert it to uh, drip coffee, like that.
mm.
So there are many ways to make sure. And
I
I've
see.
always sold all our coffee, 4 years already.
I see. I see. Good
But of
problem to
course,
have.
it's small. So we're talking of less than 1 ton. So that's why we have to sell higher. And I'm very
Yeah.
grateful to the coffee shops who have bought from us. And
Nice.
I'm paving the way for the future also of our association once they harvest.
Right. Well, I think maybe I'll take a break from hosting and maybe
Ah,
open the floor to one or two questions before we move on to the topic of rural development.
yes.
Maybe we can, if anybody from the audience would like to ask a question to Noemi, you can just, if you'd like to turn on your video, unmute yourself, ask a question if you'd like to Miss Noemi before we move on to the topic of rural development, which I think
Yeah.
is yeah. So if you'd like to ask any questions, would anybody like to ask any questions to Miss Noemi? Um, we have quite a few people. Oh, I see Vicky. Vicky, would you like to
Okay.
ask? Go
Um,
ahead.
the flavor or the flavor of the coffee that's produced is it only determined by the variety or the seed that is used, or does the site, the land, the climate, do they have anything to do with how the flavor is going to be for the produce?
It's all of
Just
the
wondering.
above. It's all of the above, actually. So the higher the elevation, the more dense the coffee, so the more compact the flavor. So in fact, our harvest is late because our elevation is a bit higher compared to other parts of Benguet. So actually, we just started harvesting last December. Others started November. So
So it's
it's
just
also
the height.
dependent. Pardon?
It's just the height. The soil the other environment things
Yes,
do not affect the flavor or the
the
kind that
soil.
the
The soil
soil.
is very
Yes.
important because there are microorganisms in the soil, and that's what they develop. The microorganisms are important for the plant, the growing plant. So that's why we use Korean natural farming. Uh, we spray the soil with we ferment we create a liquid fertilizer based on the on
So
leaves and like
I
that.
see. Also, so before you know what will come out is you have to plant the tree and it has to produce already. You or else you'll never know.
No, actually, we knew that the coffee would taste good because there was a backyard coffee that was growing before we planted. So we took samples of those coffee. So actually, if you are planning to plant, you can get some of the coffee cherries from the neighbors and see how they
If,
taste.
if there are,
Yeah,
what if
yeah,
there's none?
there
So
is.
it's
There are a
like
lot of
you're starting from scratch.
No, there are backyard coffee growers. They're backyard, and you can get samples like maybe 5 kilos and have it processed. So
Okay.
that's you'll have an idea on what is the tasting profiles. So, for example, our reds have so one of the tasting profile was bergamot. There's white florals, balanced sweetness, and there is well, this is based on the Specialty Coffee Association flavor profile, not the ASEAN, because ASEAN has their own profile. At that time, there was no ASEAN profile when they did the initial cupping
Well,
score.
well, maybe if I can help Vicky out a little bit, Noemi. I think what she meant is that she's looking at the possibility of growing coffee in places where coffee hasn't traditionally been grown before,
Oh,
which might be the
yeah.
reason why there won't be people who have the backyard coffee. So if that's the case, you really won't know until you've actually grown the
No.
coffee
Yes,
itself.
yes,
But you
exactly.
can tell by the height, the at least, and then if because well, I think the Arabica, well, for me, it needs some shade grown coffee. I think coffee can be grown. Like I see in Mindanao that some coffees have been grown under the sun. I don't know how that works. If the seedlings will grow. I'm talking of Benguet where it's grown under shade. So you just need to have a bit of shade and higher elevation of at least 1,000 meters above sea level for Arabica.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so
1,000
much
above sea
for.
level at least.
Yes, at least 1,000 for Arabica. The higher, the
Okay.
better.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
We can thank you very much,
Thanks.
Vicky. We can entertain another question from Nars, and then we'll move on to the topic of rural development. Go on, Nars.
Hi, Nars.
You're mute. You're mute.
Okay. Okay. Hi, Noemi.
Hi.
Hi. I'm very curious what particular disease challenge, if there are any, sa inyong artisan production. Do you
Disease?
disease, yes, occurrence, but are there any pests, diseases, or insects that infect your trees? Alam mo naman natin ngayon yung climatic factors, no? The
Yeah.
biotic and abiotic factors, stressors, no? Unpredictable. So, are there any challenges pagdating sa...
There are challenges, and I took the course on prevention of pests. So
Mm,
that's why it's important for because some people kill our birds.
mhm,
The birds are very important because they're natural pest control.
yeah,
And another thing, sometimes too much shade can also cause blight. So it's
yeah,
darkened, and then too much rain can cause a dark coffee cherry, dark spots on the coffee. So that one is not good for specialty. So those are some of our challenges, and so it's very rare, but we get stem borers. But
Mhm.
the farmers are very aware what a stem borer is, so we remove that right away.
Mhm.
Now, I understand there's also coffee berry borers. Coffee berry borers. We're not yet. It's not in. We were Our farm was inspected recently by the Benguet State University. We have a few of those, but it's controlled. It's not a high. It's not highly infected. The problem there was because we started to process some cherries from the outside. And if you we noticed that the cherries outside had coffee berry borers, and it probably infected some of our trees. So from then on, we decided that any coffee cherries that will be processed should be processed or washed from the entrance, not inside the farm. So those are just some of the challenges, but at least we're aware how to control it, and hopefully it will not reach peak levels.
Yeah, another question, Noemi. Have you conducted sort of a long-term study on aroma and or flavor to measure yung kanyang taste factor or aromatic taste? You mentioned a while ago 4 years is your extended year. You can
Yes.
still supply and sell at 4 years.
Because we started planting in 2018, so it's still growing.
Okay.
Slowly growing, and then we had around almost 2 tons of fresh cherries last year, but that's only 300 kilograms of green coffee beans. Now, in terms of the taste, it has been consistent because we follow a strict process. We use pH meters
Yeah. Up to
for
what pH?
consistencies.
Yeah, up to what pH level are you trying to explain?
Oh, that one
We-
is proprietary.
Okay.
But we have a pH level. So there are different pH levels. Some would say 4. It depends on you how you want your taste profile.
So
So
it's more on the acidic side.
yes,
Okay.
acidic side.
Okay.
So you have to be consistent. So we always have a table. We have a table, and we measure the pH, and then even moisture content in drying and all that. So we follow a scientific approach to maintain consistency. Because if you don't have that consistency, the next year they won't buy from you. Because roasters, cafe owners would always want a sample before they buy in bulk. So I'm very strict about that also. And even sorting, I have to make sure that the coffee are at a certain size before we sell it to the. So for long term, you just have to be consistent, and maybe experiment more, maybe on the fermented side, or increase dehydration, drying time, because sometimes the weather extends drying to more than 2 weeks. So we're looking at a dehydration machine, but that costs electricity. So
Thank you
what we
so
do,
Thank
yeah,
you so much.
thank you.
Okay. Thanks
Question.
so much, Nars. Sige, Robert, I'll let you ask a question before we move on to rural development as a topic.
Sure.
Robert.
Noemi,
Yeah.
firstly,
Hi,
congratulations.
Robert.
Yes, you did a good study, though I was a bit late. No, so
Oh,
firstly, my question now, number one is, your beans are coffee beans are Arabica, I suppose.
yes, Arabica.
So that answers why your coffee beans are very good, because normally Arabica has a good reputation. It's planted in the high level, no? I mean high area.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, altitude. Yeah.
So we're from basically from Subic, some mountain, but at the same time we have a theme park also in Paradiso, no, which is planting, I think, robusta, no.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have all around our area robusta, no. So ang question ko ngayon basically, just wondering, three questions. One, how come we're one of the biggest user of coffee, as what Julius was saying, but we're also what they call, we import a lot. why can't we not supply our own selves? So I mean, self-sufficient tayo, no? Just like
Oh, maybe I should answer that question.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, come on, no?
Maybe I should answer that question.
Sure, Julius.
Because
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
talking about statistics already. So our total coffee consumption last in terms of total coffee consumption, the Philippines ranks the fifth currently in the entire world.
Wow.
And first in Asia. We are the biggest coffee consumer
Oh,
in Asia.
yep.
Just Nestle. I'm only talking about Nestle. I don't know about
Mm-mm.
total coffee consumption. Just Nestle to produce their instant coffee, they need 40,000 metric tons of Robusta. Robusta pa to ah. This is Robusta coffee. So we don't even the scale of not just Robusta but also Arabica production needed in the Philippines to fulfill our own coffee consumption needs. That's a huge amount of coffee production
Mm.
needed. So coffee, uh, thankfully, is very well organized in the Philippines. Miss Noemi has already mentioned that she was able to meet, people from coffee here in the Philippines. But maybe what I can, so in terms of statistics, the amount of coffee we consume is honestly a frightening amount. And then maybe I can ask Noemi to take over for this. How much work does it take to establish coffee? I think would be the next part of this question. And Noemi, maybe you can share a little bit more about like the challenges in establishing coffee.
I think the reason why a lot of farmers discontinue their coffee is because it takes like what 3 years for it to grow to bear cherries, and then the price that they get is so low. Like how much? 400, 500 pesos per green coffee beans. And then how much do I know somebody who sells to at 600 pesos per kilogram greens. And how much do the coffee shops still sell this? Wow, like 5 times maybe. So, I've been telling farmers, don't sell it that cheap, I mean, look at your cost of production. But they've been buying from me for many years. So, that's why farmers are not interested to farm because it's only
Mm.
that much. And how many kilos, how many grams can you get from a typical tree? It's not always that many. So, and then they're backyard farmers. So somebody just
Yeah.
buys all of them and then profits. It's the greens, the trader.
Approximately how many kilos per tree can one
Uh,
harvest?
based on I understand it's for typical. Let me look. I have the I know here. Well,
Mm.
I think
For
it's less than a
Robusta,
kilo.
yeah,
For
for
typical,
Robusta,
I
it's
I have
only
it. It's oh, 0.8 kilos fresh coffee berries. So that's 0.80
Oh,
per
yeah.
tree. Yeah, kilograms. I mean, this is based on a study.
yeah,
Fresh
eight
coffee
hundred
berries.
grams.
800 grams, and then this is 160 grams of green tea.
So I think maybe just to sort of answer that question of why it's rather difficult to establish new coffee farms. I think in terms of that barrier to entry, it's a little high. And then second is most coffee farmers don't really understand the value of what they're growing. So really that bridging that gap between the market, because Miss Noemi's example herself is really, I think she benefits from having that connection already directly with the roaster and with the consumer market, I think.
Just a
Yeah.
follow-up, Julius, on your point. Why Vietnam? Vietnam, the biggest
Vietnam,
exporter of coffee, and then they're also the same demographics of our farmers. Tapos even the size, etc.
So if I may, because that I think that's a question that I can answer. Vietnam decided to focus on Robusta, not Arabica. So the Vietnamese coffee that you drink whenever you go to Vietnam, it's almost primarily Robusta,
Yeah.
which
My
can be,
point,
yeah.
Julius, is they're one of the biggest producer of coffee and
Mm,
biggest exporter of coffee,
mm.
with Colombia and basically now coming up Indonesia. Tapos ng tayo, almost the same.
I
Mm.
think I might be able to answer a bit there. I
Mm.
understand that the Vietnamese government really helps the farmers during
Yun.
the time that they do not have harvest.
Yun.
I think they have some sort of income. In here, we have a coffee development plan, and then when I went to the municipal office, they don't know what I'm talking about. So even the municipal officer. So really, there's something wrong with
Yeah.
the coffee
Go.
development plan. I think Senator Panfilo Lacson has a bill about that. So I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, it's just all in paper. I mean, if the government just helps us, at least even provide the seedlings and what
Correct.
some.
Yeah. Mm.
Imagine I had to go through connections just to get seedlings or or help. It's
Okay.
everything was really through connections.
Yeah.
Yes. Yun.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, if I may, because they focus primarily on Robusta, their purpose really was to work with coffee that was more
Yeah.
conducive to bulk, bulk purchase, bulk process, bulk manufacture of coffee.
Mm.
So it's a very I don't know if Noemi will agree with me, but I think what happens is that you ended up focusing um
Arabica.
on a coffee market that favored like scale, like getting to that scale as quickly
Mm.
as possible, which is why the government could do that kind of support. Um so I think that's one of the things that's also good to keep in mind. I'm sorry, Melkor. We'll just move on to the second topic, which is the topic of rural development.
Mm.
I'll run a little long on the formal session before we move on to the informal Q&A, but I
Okay.
hope yeah, if people would be willing to give me that time so that we can upload as part of our as part of this session the topic of rural development, using uh, uh, small coffee production for rural development. So you already mentioned Noemi. Thank you, really. It's been great having this conversation so far about, developing coffee, all these things. Now I wanted to now focus on, this effort that you've been making. As you said, you started with a certain inventory of trees, and then you've since added you've established 3,000 new trees for that. So unfortunately, that means it's 3 more years before those coffee trees will be productive. But you've been able to grow this to at least 11 farmers within your community, and you've already touched on some topics. For example, you said that you were able to you have a small roaster, and the farmers can bring their coffee to you, and then you can roast it for them and things like that. So this is already a form of rural development, even if it's 11 farmers. 11 farmers is 11 farmers. That's 11 more than zero. So can you walk us through the story of that? So how did this start, and then how did you get to these 11 farmers, and so on?
Actually, it's 13. So
13.
13 farmers. So it started in 2023 when the Department of Agriculture decided to give us a dehuller and a roasting machine. I said I don't want to have a roasting machine because I mean I want to concentrate on farming, but the condition was we should share it with the community. Actually, I've been wanting to do that, but uh, because of that condition, I was sort of a proprietorship. So I wanted to be more formal. I said, Let's make an association. Let's start to make it more formal instead of just informal." So we started it with first with our local farmers, and then we got some backyard growers, and then we farmed it, and then they were very interested to know more about small batch production. because they're not going to go to commodity farming because they're not going to earn from that. But because of the association, we can pull our coffee together and sell it to coffee roasters, coffee shops. So they were very interested in that. And then we found out that some have 200, 500 in their backyard. Because as you know, most coffee growers are backyard coffee are the ones that provide our coffee. So that's what happened. And my processing lead farmer was the one who really went all the way and processed the papers. They're now legal. Of course, they're legal right now. And then they got recognition even from the municipal and I think regional level. And because of that, they got a composter, which will benefit. This composter is the one that will, instead of using, chemicals or fertilizer, we have so much weeds, we can make compost. So these things, we want them to know that there is a long-term future in farming because they were concentrated on cash crops. And then, as we know, during typhoons, they are easily wiped out, just like in the recent typhoon. So it's good that they want to learn about this coffee, which was the livelihood of their parents many years back. So we really want to help them. Is starting from how to build a nursery. So we transfer technology on how to build a nursery, pest management, and pest control, and the proper way of planting and natural farming. That's how we are developing the farmers, and then we're telling them about quality. Quality is really important. So because without quality, we cannot also sell consistent products. So that's how we are doing it.
See, what was it like before this started? You said they were backyard coffee farmers. So does that mean they were still selling their coffee anyway before this, or what was it
Yes,
like?
they were selling through a trade, somebody who buys it. They're called, I forgot what they're called, but there's a middleman, and that
Mhm.
middleman collects all the greens, and some they retain for themselves. And how much do they get? I think 400 a kilo. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
if you sell at least for specialty now, at least 2,000 a kilo.
Mhm, mhm.
I mean, because my cost of production is really high, you cannot sell at 1,000 only a kilo. You have to sell more than that. It's
See,
really
I
the
see.
cost of production. That's why even some of the inquiry I get from Korea, some countries like, why is your coffee so expensive? It's our cost of production. So
Mhm.
I'm very happy that some Philippine coffee shops are buying our coffee, and I'd rather sell it here than sell it abroad because we lack Arabica in the Philippines. How much? 20% only are producing coffee. So we want to increase that a bit, and maybe one day the prices will be lowered once the production is higher, right?
Mhm.
And then
I
we
see.
sell by volume.
Okay. I see. So, you mentioned that part of what sparked this rural development was that you were given certain assets from the
Yes, assets.
government and things like that.
Yes.
So do you feel that that is necessary? Sometimes, we do talk about collective development. So in your case, you have a group of 13. Thank you for correcting me. So two more than I initially assumed. So much better. So 13 farmers, that's 13 more than nothing, right? That's already a very good result. But this it seems to be that the spark was that external um um shall we call it stimulus of getting those assets in place, and that seems to be a part of the conversation around collective development, especially in rural situations where maybe as a group of farmers or as a community of farmers, it's quite difficult for you to do it yourselves, and oftentimes you do need sort of like this external support. to make it happen. Can you share a little bit more of that? Do you think that this is very, very necessary? Is this something that needs to be, you know, that needs to be taken into account? Like, while it is great to have the story of, you know, the term is pulling yourselves up by your bootstraps and things like that. But it does seem like on paper, even though cooperatives they really do sound good, the external that external support or that external help is very necessary. Maybe you can share a little bit more about
I,
that.
I'm grateful for the support that the Department of Agriculture has given us, but I really think that the roaster was not necessary because
Mm,
I think we should be focusing on farming. All I wanted was a dehuller, but
mm,
apparently the dehuller came with a roaster. So whether I like it or not, the roaster came. So okay, let's learn how to. And fortunately, well, I'm just going backwards, but fortunately, a roaster taught us how to calibrate it to specialty. So now they know how to do specialty roasting. So anyway, going back, I wanted a dehuller, and then I really appreciate that. But the dehuller wasn't even that great. It kept breaking our coffee beans, and then you cannot sell broken coffee beans to specialty. So I'm still, I bought, I in the end, I bought dehuller from Henry and Sons because I can't afford to have a high breakage. So, I really appreciate all of those efforts, but they really should check their suppliers. That the holler machine doesn't come from the Philippines. I bought it through Henry and Sons again, which came from Brazil because it has a better production rate. So all these things, I wish that it was better for quality. I wish they would focus more on the equipment like the holler and the pulper. The composter is good, actually. The one that they gave us, that's really good because we tried natural composting. I have a hut of composting. Oh my goodness, one big hut is just for how many plants? So if you have a composting machine, you can compost and have a fertilizer for big lots. So that one is valuable. Okay, that's appreciated, and I'm glad we have that. So some of the machines are really not necessary, but we really appreciate their effort.
okay. So what I'm hearing is that, well, it is a problem, I think, because
Yes.
the procurement law in the Philippines unfortunately does
Ah.
force government to purchase the lowest priced item, and unfortunately,
Ah.
you do get what you pay for.
Oh
Unfortunately, I think
yeah. Yeah.
is the biggest problem. I know a lot of people in government who really complain about that. They themselves know
Oh.
that they can get a
Oh.
much better machine, but because the procurement law forces them to get the lowest bidder, and you have unscrupulous suppliers who just come in with the cheapest possible machine. So unfortunately, you do get what you pay for
Yeah.
with that. So it is a complaint even from within the government itself that they're forced to get poor quality things because the law requires them to do it. But anyway, so I guess maybe instead of that, I should rephrase the question to the support that came from people like, Chitwan or
Ah,
Michael Harris
yes.
Conlin and things like that that were able to, I think that external support has been very instrumental in what you were able to do.
Yes, it's it's good if you are new in coffee to tap some of the experts in coffee, like the Philippine Coffee Board, the Philippine Coffee Guild, and other coffee. There are many coffee groups. So I'm friends with most of them. I mean, at least all of them. I like to learn. I like to learn I learned even how to cup, how to roast. I learned everything from scratch. I just enrolled in lessons just so I have an idea what they're talking about. What's cupping? So you have an idea what cupping is. I also learned how to be a barista. Um, so it's important because one contact can lead you to other contacts, and that's how I said, oh, you can learn from Professor Macanes, and then Professor Macanes would introduce me to a farmer. So I got introduced to a farmer in Sagada, and from her I learned I sourced Katimor from her. She has very good Katimor. So I bought Katimor from her. So those things, so it leads to another. So actually the Philippine coffee producers, most of them know each other. So it's always good to keep in touch, and it also helps that you are in social media. Instagram is for me is one of the because it's so visual. I like that because I expose our farm there. I get to know other producers through Instagram, Facebook also. So these two platforms are the ones that have really have expanded my network. It's like word of mouth in the old days.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
see. Well, I think that touches on a very important topic because you yourself, you have the capacity to learn a lot of these things. You ended up you touched on, you know, even learning how to be a barista. You didn't want the roaster, but you ended up picking up, um how to roast, and then eventually that led to allowing you to determine your coffee, to get your coffee graded as a specialty coffee. You talked about, identifying the different varietals and things like that, and I think that touches on a very important part of entrepreneurship, which is, when you're an entrepreneur, you kind of have to do a lot of things on your own. You even said earlier that if you
Oh
can,
yes.
you reserve like a small batch of coffee for yourself so that you can keep the branding there. You can, and then you sell that so that the name continues to go out, and people still get to know you, so on and so forth. So that's a very entrepreneurial mindset. You're trying to experiment with a lot of different things. You're testing what works. You're trying to develop products. You're trying to develop a story, so on and so forth. Is that the same for other farmers, or is that really more like, since you've sort of created this way forward, you've blazed this path forward already, the farmers that you're working with are just, you're bringing them along so that you can because I know one of the main difficulties of entrepreneurship is scaling up, and so obviously, you
Yeah.
can't just endlessly buy land or plant new coffee, or things like that. So those are those limitations. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit. Like, at what point did you start to see the limits of your entrepreneurship, and you started, pushing out into bringing other people into the system? And do you think it's realistic for farmers within your community to do the same thing you did, or is it more realistic that we identify people like yourself who can do this kind of entrepreneurial, first mover work, to blaze that path for? What was your experience?
Maybe we can teach the farmers how to build their branding. But first of all, I forgot to mention, I want to give credit to my two daughters. The first daughter who wanted the coffee, and my second daughter is in digital marketing. So
Mm.
she was in Singapore at the time, said, no, when you start selling the coffee in 2022, we need to have a brand story. So she invested in somebody who developed the brand, even the packaging and all that. So we had a direction on the brand, what it should be. It's small batch producer, and so we stuck to that. Even the way we presented to the story to social media and to our customers. So it was really building a clear identity, our farm story, our varietals, our processing style, and we mentioned our canopy, the shade grown, and the micro lots. Now, what did you say again? Entrepreneurship, right? So, to scale it, I think it helped also that I got a consultant. The consultant is not cheap, but I tell you, I recovered it in 2 years. The cost of the consultant, the cost only, not the cost of the investment, but it was worth it. Um, if you cannot afford a consultant, of course you can trial and error, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to speed up because I told you in the first year, all my coffee got spoiled because of the rains. Um, there was molds on our coffee, so I wanted it to speed up. And my children, my daughter said, "Yes, let's get a consultant." And so we agreed on the consultant, even it was expensive, because I really had a return of investment. And the consultant led us to other coffee growers, and we got an award. I haven't even roasted a coffee. I already got an award because he had a small batch. So those things, I don't know if it can be replicated, but I definitely can teach. I can transfer the knowledge of quality, consistency, and brand building. So have a story. So we'll build a story and how to sell it to future coffee roasters. So in control over margins, uh, I really cut. I don't pay a salary to myself, but actually my feeling is I do this as a social enterprise, and that's my salary. I Because I feel that I'm helping a community, and whatever income I get goes back to the next production cycle. So from the start in 2022 when we started selling, the money went back, and then so it kept roll over. So we didn't really have a big capex anymore. So that's, and I want to give back by letting the farmers use our processing center, our mill, our facilities.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we are quite over time right now. I think
Oh,
maybe
really?
what we can do, yeah, maybe what we can do is we could like to basically what you've been saying so far is, people who, so even before you there were other people that, such as your consultant, who had blazed the path forward. I assume this is Michael Harris Conlin.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes,
we've
yes.
actually had him before. He was actually one of our speakers in one of our sessions last year.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so we're very thankful to have him with us. So it does seem like that does seem to be the case. You have people like Michael, you have people like yourself, who are willing to take that time and effort um to really get that experience and so on. Obviously in your case you've mentioned that hiring a consultant is very expensive, but you were able to recover the cost. But for let's say a backyard farmer, that's really not even in the question. It's not something that they can really consider. So so there does seem to be an aspect of um opening up a way forward for other people to come after you, I think, whether that be
Yes.
from Michael or yourself, and then now people who are following your lead in the situation. So maybe before we end the formal session, you know let's talk about it from this consideration of rural development, because that's essentially what's happened in your area. It seems like you already said that you've won an award even before your first roasting. So you're already capturing that premium, you're already capturing that market, and that awareness, and building out that network already. And because of that success, you already said you have that problem of you're running out of coffee.
Still small.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, it's a small amount, but the fact that you're able to fully sell out, even if it's just a small amount, is a good problem to have. And so now you're looking at, other farmers coming in and growing that coffee. So eventually, as a community, that raises the profile of the community itself. Maybe we can end on that note. Does that for you feel as a viable model for rural development, at least using coffee as the commodity we're working?
uh, it's a model if you're a group. If you're backyard coffee growers and you don't have a lot of land and you have backyard coffee, you pull together and process the coffee in one area with the same quality. So that one that is doable. That can be replicated. The quality can be maintained. So in that sense, I can probably help them, or the association itself can also do both farming and marketing directly, direct marketing. So that's how micro brands can work. because the farmer now is running two business, farming and marketing, direct marketing, selling direct to the roaster, not to a third party, not to what's this, the trader. The one they call it the green beans trader. So I think that's the I think selling green beans is better than selling roasted coffee. Actually, this can be done.
Right. All right. So thank you very much. Honestly, this has been a very enlightening conversation because you're really on the ground. It's you and your two daughters, as you've mentioned,
Yes.
finding its ways forward. That's really something that has been really, really good. We'll move on to a Q&A for the informal session. So for those of you who are with us right now, please don't worry. We'll move on to the informal session
Oh,
just after this.
sure.
We just need to close the formal session because that's what's going to be uploaded. Before anything else, I'd like to please flash our certificate of appreciation on screen for Noemi. So the Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation, in partnership with the Management Association of the Philippines, together with all our members and our donors, our individual, corporate, special partner, and senior special partner institutions, all present this certificate of appreciation to Noemi Lardizabal-Dado for her invaluable support in the advocacy and promotion of agribusiness and countryside development, and for her commendable and unselfish services rendered to this foundation as our resource speaker for our first online session of 2026, given this 30th day of January in Pasig City, Philippines. Signed, Ernie Ordonez as our chairman and myself as our president.